It's off in the distance on the prairie. There's not a tree in sight. You got a perfect view. It's black smoke, and all of a sudden, one of these tank cars explodes, and it's a 20-story fireball.
Each day, hundreds of thousands of gallons of crude oil move up and down the rail systems through the U.S. and Canada. One of those railways is right in our backyard. And while numerous trains hit the tracks through St. Joseph and surrounding cities each day, what many residents don't know is that about 4 trains per week are carrying highly volatile oil through the backyards of their homes, businesses, and schools.
So you have this incredibly rapid growth of oil production in North Dakota in the middle of the country with no pipelines being built. And that oil, in order to get to markets, needs to go to the East Coast, to the West Coast, and to the Gulf Coast. Because basically, that's where our refineries are.
The oil boom from the Bakken fields in North Dakota has caused a massive jump in the transportation of this crude oil. The U.S. Department of Transportation predicts that these rail tankers carrying crude oil or ethanol will derail an average of 10 times per year over the next 2 decades. Crude oil train traffic has seen a shocking 5,000% increase since 2008. But has the process of transporting this product increased at the same rate?
Literally, this industry in 2008 didn't exist. Crude by rail did not exist. There were a couple trains maybe here and there. We did move ethanol, we did move some gasoline, but we did not move crude oil. And now all of a sudden we're just moving, the latest numbers I saw was over 1 million barrels a day on the rails.
That's Russell Gold, the senior energy reporter for the Wall Street Journal and author of The Boom. Russell's been following this railway issue closely for a few years now. That issue has literally started to explode, so much so that experts have started calling these bomb trains. But is crude oil supposed to be creating fireballs shooting into the sky and a 4-day-long fire like we saw in the most recent accident in southern West Virginia?
The crude oil that's coming from the Bakken Shale in North Dakota is very gassy. Just has a lot of gas associated with it, ethanes, propanes, butanes. And that gas is not being stripped out of the crude oil up in North Dakota because there's no infrastructure to take it out. If you were to take it out, you pretty much just have to flare it off. So they're keeping it in there. So when you do have a derailment, you are seeing very large explosions because those gases are very vaporous, and once they are exposed to flame, will just go up with enormous ferocity.
Everyone from environmental activists to emergency responders and lawmakers are being called on to pinpoint and tackle this problem. The problem, however, isn't certain yet. Experts blaming the derailments on everything from train speed, outdated rail cars, weather, to lack of updated regulation. A recent report by Forest Ethics shows that 19,132 Buchanan County residents live in the potential oil train blast zone. That is 21% of the local population. And that blast zone, well, exactly what it sounds like. An oil train derailment would require everyone within a half a mile of the site to evacuate. While in the instance of a fire or explosion of that material, the evacuation would expand to all areas within a mile of the crash site.
Moving crude oil by train is taking a system that was designed to move goods and people between population centers and turning it into a hazardous material superhighway. And what that means is that these trains, these 100-car plus trains, right, carrying up to 3 million gallons of explosive crude oil on them, travel through downtown of nearly every city in America.
Most trains travel between the U.S. and Canada each day without a hitch, and most of them have a plan in case the unthinkable happens. But the question is, do you have a plan for your home, business, or school located in that blast zone? And maybe, more importantly, what plan does local emergency management have to keep you safe from these bomb trains?
Both the city and county have emergency operation plans that are updated every year. And so we would know how to evacuate people if we needed to evacuate people. We would know how to shelter people if we needed to. The St. Joseph Fire Department and the 9 rural fire departments would respond and would handle any fire emergencies. And the hazmat team would be there to support in any way we could.
However, federal guidelines for this type of disaster have recently been warning firefighters to stay away from the explosion sites. In recent oil tanker derailments, emergency responders were forced to let the explosion burn itself out for days because of the hazards and lack of resources.
I've talked to fire chiefs across the country, and basically what they tell me is to deal with a fire like this, you need a retardant foam. and we don't have enough retardant foam. So what we've seen when these happen is that they're essentially letting them burn out and blow up, and you're trying to get the fuel away because you cannot put water on these fires. You need to have a specialized foam. And even in big cities like Portland, Oregon, where I talked to the fire chief a couple weeks ago, which has a lot of trains starting to come through, they don't have enough foam, much less smaller communities across the country. So this is a big problem. There's really no effective way to fight these fires.
The increased awareness of the threat these trains pose has sparked a few changes to the system in the last month, including FEMA workshops in potential blast zones, limiting the speed of the trains, increased track inspections, and thicker tanker walls. Angie Lastman, Fox 26, KNPN.